Friends, it is time. We are hosting an Enneagram event in Colorado on June 27th through the 28th. And actually, there's a bonus Sunday morning, the 29th, as both a reason to get all our Enneagram friends together and because we are launching the first of our 5 books. Around the Circle, an Enneagram book, is releasing this summer. And because we love you, we have half-price tickets to the event up, and they are available through March. The link to our event page is in the show notes, or you can go to aroundthecircle.org, where members can get free tickets and see the draft of our first 6 chapters, as well as college courses, all our full interviews, and much more to come. Thank you for listening. We truly hope to see you and meet you this summer, and may all good things be yours.
Yep. I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss? Sir?
I feel the need for speed. Ow! Good morning, Vietnam!
What country you from? What ain't no country I ever heard of? They speak English and what?
60% of the time, it works every time.
That doesn't make sense.
It's in the hole! It's in the hole!
All right.
These go to 11.
Dr. Lecter, my name is Clarice Starling. May I speak with you?
First rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
I must break you.
I want to learn the ways of the Force and become a Jedi like my father.
We love some movie characters, and sometimes the best way to get into the characters we love is to dig deep into their motive, their calling, and their sense of self, and talk about what we really, really want. This is movie typing, where we engage and unveil the intentions and drive of the greatest characters on film. My name is Jeff Cook. I'm a longtime professor of philosophy in Greeley, Colorado. With me is TJ Wilson, coffee guru, lover of theology, and personality typing expert.
Hello.
Boss.
Hey.
So, on my desk for, I think, upwards of 5 years now has been a list. And at the top, it says Heroes.
Yeah.
And it has coffee stains all over it now. There's probably some bleach wipes have hit it. It is well loved in terms of my list of heroes for us to someday talk through. And my friend, guess what?
What?
Today is the day.
Today? Is that what we're doing today?
We're going to start this sucker up. Longtime listeners will know that we did a villain series that got us all the way through 2020. And today we're going to begin with the opposite. We're going to hit some heroes.
I think that's a great place for us to be looking right now.
In large measure, the Enneagram gods have delayed our jumping into the heroes series for exactly that reason. Now is the time that we need heroes. This was going to be my final thought on this, but let's just jump into it. We're starting this podcast now because some of us actually need to be reminded of heroic acts and what it looks like to feel the pressure, to endure, to rise up to your best self. And no better place to see that displayed than in the movies that we love.
As we discuss this, like with our villain series, we were looking at like the character of people who were doing bad things and like why those stories are compelling. And like if it's just blind destruction, there's no fun in that. It's not interesting. There's no depth there. Similarly with heroes, like being in a place where they have to access something that they normally don't have, that they normally don't need, and they have to do something heroic in order to move forward. And I'm really excited to talk about those stories.
Let's jump into the big idea of heroism then.
Yeah.
When you think about the heroic, what is the definition? What can we push into and say this is what heroism's about?
You think in general or like the Enneagram space?
Yeah, let's do it in general, and then we can talk about our definition for Enneagram.
Yeah, I think that heroism is about facing conflict, facing I guess conflict is the word I was looking for, but that's not the one I want. Facing adversity, facing very difficult situations with the best that you have to offer in order to get to the other side of them. It's like sometimes being a parent is heroic because of how difficult it is. Sometimes being a teacher is heroic because of, like, you could be saving a life. Sometimes, like, in the course of our normal lives, there are moments where we can be heroic because the situation needs something from us that we wouldn't normally give to it.
Yep.
And the best parts of ourselves can rise up and meet those situations, meet those conflicts, meet those obstacles, and maybe save a life, maybe bring about good for someone else that they weren't expecting, maybe heal systems, maybe break systems that need to be broken. There's all kinds of different ways that heroism can manifest, but I think at its core, it's those moments where something more than usual is required of you in order to face this moment.
Love this. This is a strange way to get to this, but some of you will know that I teach philosophy. All my study was in philosophy or religion, which focuses on God. And one of the problems when talking about God is why there's so much evil, catastrophe, suffering in the world. And one of the primary answers in response is that the best, not only of human beings, but of God and God's self, come out only when everything breaks. Mm-hmm. And nobody likes it when things break. But there is something valuable about seeing a person who's fully alive confronting the darkness.
Yeah.
And that's just worth elevating. And most of our stories kind of go down that road. In fact, a lot of our stories of heroism are about really ordinary people, but suddenly put into spaces of peril. You see them problem solving. You see them being intentional and clear headed. You see them having to exude virtues and strengths that perhaps they didn't even know were there. And there is something captivating about that. There is something beautiful. There's something, for me, when I see these stories, these are the stories I love most. Like I'm just am emotionally moved. I often cry most at movies of this sort. And as was said, in terms of the time that we find ourselves, the thing I keep thinking is heroism is contagious. And we need people to be heroic, not just for that present moment, but to spill into everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I don't know why, but the first Gladiator movie just came into my mind. And like, this is sort of the thing about Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, right? Like the idea that a normal person leaves home and faces some obstacles and meets a wise man that puts him on the path and like confronts the obstacle and then gets to return home, right? That's the basic arc of the hero's journey. And when I was thinking about Gladiator, like the heroism of Russell Crowe is not that he gets his revenge. It's not that he wins in whatever thing he's doing. The heroism is that he topples a corrupt leader and inspires other people to be better.
Yeah.
Like the hero actually dies in that story, spoiler alert, and the other people are inspired to be better because of his heroism.
Yeah. Line that comes to my mind is this is Bruce Wayne's ambition in Batman Begins is he wants to become a symbol. He wants to be something that's incorruptible. He wants to become something that is more than just a person.
Yeah.
Ideas are powerful on that front.
Yeah.
As was said. So I think many of us, when thinking about what we want to do with our own lives, we're looking for patterns. We're looking for examples. We're looking who ought I to become. And there's lots of different options, and sometimes the heroic is just one of the things we might choose. But is that not? I suppose they're like Plato. One of his very first stories is of Socrates' death, And he elevates Socrates in the Apology as this deeply heroic man standing in front of the masses and presenting, this argument for the beauties of wisdom and how we ought to live the wise life at cost to himself. The stories of Jesus at cost to yourself. The stories in recent years, I suppose, that come to my mind in terms of American culture end up being also self-sacrificial with like somebody like Martin Luther King Jr. or who else comes across as an American hero?
I guess that depends a lot on who you ask.
Well, I'm asking you.
Sure. American heroes. Tom Brady? No, there is a sense of we elevate a lot of people in our culture that the reason that we elevate them is because of their self-sacrifice. Police officers, firefighters, nurses, EMTs.
Yeah.
The type of people who give more than they have in order to help other people. And
there you go.
There is a lot of elevation of heroes within American culture. There's also a lot of heroifying people that are just popular, and that's definitely not what we're talking about.
Right.
Like that. There are probably sports stars that are heroes, but I don't think they're heroes because they're sports stars, right?
Yeah, what comes to my mind as you're talking is during COVID, like the nurses, frontline medical folks were really the ones who are going to battle for the rest of us in very dangerous spaces. Yeah. Japan got hit by a tsunami a few years back that knocked out some nuclear reactors, and you had men and women who were going into those spaces. Probably they would die of radiation poisoning, but doing so for the sake of their country.
Yeah.
A sports star that does come to mind is Muhammad Ali, who surrenders his title in order to protest what he rightly saw as a very unjust war, both towards those who were being killed in East Asia and towards the injustice of how many black men were being put on planes and shipped overseas to fight that war with a lack of respect at home. Right. Sport can be platforms for the heroic, but yeah, you see the real heroism elsewhere. Got done well, and we may talk about this in the future. Saw the Christopher Reeves documentary called Superman, Super/Man. He's not a very good person prior to his accident. He's kind of, he's a guy. He's a world famous actor.
Yeah,
he changes significantly after that, and there is some truly heroic elements to what he and his wife end up doing. Finding your best self in the midst of the worst circumstances. I like that as heroism. Yeah. Do the worst circumstances produce stress?
Usually, yes. If they don't, it probably means you're asleep or on the wrong side.
So an epiphany that TJ and I had 6 or 7 years ago was that the low side of our security number in Enneagram is the place of our worst self.
Yeah.
Everything's going well.
Yeah.
And we let our worst self come out. And that is what we call the villainy.
Yep.
And we highlight that in that villain series in 9 ways. But with our heroes series, it's the opposite. We get pushed into stress and then our best self comes out. And so like the high side of our stress move is the space where heroism lives.
Right.
I really like that as a balance.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it speaks a lot to just pushing further into the idea that stress and security, the moves, the arrows are not healthy or unhealthy. To say that stress is a place of unhealth misses the boat, and similar for security, because you can be the worst version of yourself when you're secure, and you can be the best version of yourself when you're deeply stressed. And we find things, not only do we find things that we need to keep us alive in those stress places, but we find things that make us better. that make us grow, that push us past what we assumed were our boundaries, and say there is something else on the other side of this. And it also speaks to, I think that like we do not believe that it is a good idea to try and stay in that security place, and it's not a good idea to try and stay in the stress place either. And so part of that heroism is not that you're going to be like this forever. It's one of the things that will help you get back to center. And even there's in my study on this, I found that like attaching to some of the sort of higher ideas, not only the ones you get at your stress, but like bringing you back to the higher ideas that are present in your own type. That it's like a ladder that helps you get up there when you draw from the high side of your stress number.
Yeah. We talk lots about balance and harmony in terms of head, heart, gut. It seems to me there's something about that move, the stress move, where your holistic self is somewhere in that space. When we talk about stress moves, there is the pivot off of center into that number. Your motive remains, but you, for many of the types, they end up engaging their fullest self in that stress move. I think we'll talk much more about that as we go.
So TLDR,
yeah,
heroism is at the high side of stress.
I suppose here's where, since I've already given my final thought to begin, as I was doing my study on heroism, I was like, there is so much here, and it's going to come out as we talk. And I imagine that our intros to each of these is probably going to say, oh, and we probably should talk about this.
Sure.
You know, so maybe this is a to be continued kind of topic. TJ rightly and wisely picked our first movie, and we're going to start with the sixes. And just thinking about heroism and thinking about obstacles and thinking about anxiety and fear, I think 6 is exactly the place to start. And so as we're jumping in, as again, my coffee drenched, wrinkled, for those, if I post the video, sheet that has been on my
I'm honestly
for 5
surprised
years.
that there's not more notes on that. It's because the notes are on other pages where you remade that list over and over again.
It actually is. I think this may be the third variety of it. But when talking about heroic sixes, characters, 2 big characters came out. Marty McFly in the Back to the Future trilogy, or Marlin in Finding Nemo. Both these have that 6 anxious quality. But of all things, when I started first making the heroes list, one of the very first names I put down was the character that we're going to talk about today. And this would be Miss Brisby from The Secret of Nim. I want to set this up. Some of you are going to tune out at exactly this moment. And I would desperately invite you to stick around for a minute. The Secret of Nim is an animated film from 1982. It is a gorgeous piece of artwork that in my mind is superior to nearly everything that's hand done today and most of the digital animation. It's only 80 minutes long. It got a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes, which for reference is the same score as The Dark Knight, No Country for Old Men, Fargo, and The Lion King. This is the space that it's occupying in terms of praise. It is the only movie on Ranker that is both top 10 for animated movies and for fantasy in the 1980s. And routinely it tops the lists of movies that scared the hell out of you when you were 6, you know?
Yep, that's fair.
And that may be older millennials and Gen X, but this was one of those movies that you watched and you were just like, this is gorgeous and terrifying. It occupies in my space the same kind. It's got the same kind of vibe at times as Alice in Wonderland and Dumbo in my 6-year-old heart of like, this is something that's beautiful and I don't get it. You know, why are all these pink elephants on parade? Why does that woman want to cut off everybody's head? It's kind of in that sort of world.
It's fair.
Only hand-drawn rival for me is The Iron Giant, which is arguably one of the best films ever made.
Agreed.
But The Secret of NIMH ends up having a character, Mrs. Brisby, who, as I was kind of saying, ordinary, placed into a desperately dark situation. And her anxiety and yet her deep care for her family forces her into spaces where she must rise up.
Right.
And I love that as an introductory hero, you know?
Yeah.
I'm sure on the list of heroes of the top 1,000, you might not have this character, but for me, this person comes across as just a quintessential archetypical, this is what heroism looks like. So we're going to jump into The Secret of NIMH. Very excited for this series. Do take a look at these films. We will do a deep dive into them soon. And for all of our movie catalog, check out the Movie Typing Podcast, which presently has 65 episodes and a large variety of pop culture deep dives. If you or someone you care about is just getting into the Enneagram, do check out our Start Here podcast. And if you truly want to get into our best work, go to aroundthecircle.org. You will see free videos, books, free tickets to events, and lots of opportunities to get your Enneagram questions answered. And that's what I got. Well, he's TJ Wilson. He's officially awesome. I'm Jeff Cook. And who you aren't just isn't interesting.
Get to the chopper!
I drink your milkshake.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor?